let's get to Ryan Neal, because he's a guy that was very, very crucial to the Seahawks defense last year. 61 solo tackles, 28 stops, 1 interception, 6 pass breakups. A guy that can, again, play deep in the post, play those 2 high looks, but he can be used at the second level. So say they let Edmonds walk and they go for more of like a guy that doesn't have the range, whether it's because of age, like Levante David, or a guy like TJ Edwards, who doesn't have the full on range that a guy, athletic linebacker, would in Tremaine Edmonds or Matt Milano. Maybe they kind of bring in a guy like Neal and make him the dime backer and make him that second level defender in passing situations. Because that's what the Seahawks did with Neal. And he's able to, kind of make tackles from depth like you're going to see here, but offer that flexibility when it comes to things like that. So, also, when they go to man coverage, again, if they do decide to lean into man coverage a little more, you're going to see that he can match up with tight ends, like the good ones, the best ones in the league, and running backs, as you'll see in some of these clips. He can match up on the backside of those formations and help shut those guys down and make plays on the ball, not just, force a quarterback to go somewhere else with it. So a guy that's just always around the ball. And anytime you watch a Seahawks defense, this guy stood out. Here he is from depth against the Panthers. Look at him come down into the box post snap and wrap that guy up as that push crack comes from the wide receiver, but cuts that guy's legs out from under him. That, when I first started scouting Jordan Poyer, when the Bills picked him up, one of the first plays I saw from Cleveland was a play just like this, where he came from that too high look and then they screamed into the box, sacrificed his body to make a tackle on the running back just like this. And I was like, okay, I see why Sean McDermott and the staff like him. I got the same vibes from Ryan Neal on a play like this.
That's awesome to hear. Like, that's, I think, music to any Bills fans' ears. I love watching. I'm just watching Foreman's hips, the running back for Carolina. As soon as Neal gets down, like, you just watch Foreman's hips explode to the left because Neal drives through him. Like, there's such a difference between coming down and making a tackle versus coming down and laying a hit. And Neal hits him, but he also wraps him up. Like, this is a sound tackle, but also like an impactful one. This goes into that hand in hand of what I like as well, like adding that bite. Like, he's coming down and making a sound play, but it's also physical. It's also technical. Like, you're letting the dude know, like, hey, as soon as you cross that line of scrimmage, you're done.
Yeah, and here's another one. And again, look at the tight end he's up against, Kittle. Now watch his play and watch the recovery, because like it's not perfect. He does get beat a little bit, but watch the change of direction to match Kittle. I mean, that's a hell of a route. First of all, it's a hell of a route stem from Kittle, a really good tight end, obviously. But watch the recovery. So he gets back into the hip pocket of him, and then as the ball's coming in at the catch point, watch him play the man and then rake it out at the end there.
Through the hands, punch through the hands.
Again, the recovery. Yes, again, you're going to get beat. That's what happens when you play in the secondary. Your recovery and your poise at the catch point is where you can make up for that loss early in a play.
This is nice to see as well. One of actually my issues with Donovan Wilson was he had a couple reps against George Kittle in the slot, and they were bad. Like, he got work. He lost his footing on one, but Kittle definitely got the best of him. And so to see Neal go toe-to-toe with – the only reason George Kittle isn't like the best tight end in the NFL is because Travis Kelce's playing and he's a Hall of Famer. Like, Kittle is a monster in every which way. This is a great run, a great stem, but exactly to your point, like – okay, you got beat. So what are you going to do? The recovery, the angle to the ball, and then the finishing at the catch point, right? Getting your hands through, punching through the hands, raking it out. That's a quality rep against a high caliber opponent in a big time situation.
Yeah. So you saw, that's a man coverage rep there in a big situation. And now here he's dropped down into the box again. In those passing situations, that's something that we talked about. Hey, kind of blending the positions, like now having a guy that can play in the box like this as that dime backer, not thick dime, Greg. Sorry. He's not a thick dime type player, but you see him just in zone coverage here. Watch him read the quarterback. Herbert's trying to sneak it over the middle. He says, nope, not happening. Look at him jump right in front of it for the interception on the pass to Carter. And then, add some yards after that interception. Just a really good read from him as that dime backer at the second level.
I love that versatility piece, right? Like, if you're going to lose somebody like a Tremaine Edmonds, you have to supplement that loss in a multitude of ways. And seeing him function in the hook curls like this and being able to drop and read and take a proper angle to the ball and cut this off from a quarterback who has good ball placement, but also has a laser at times. Like the fact that he can get across the face of this inside receiver and then catch this and show some ball skills in addition to reading the route distribution and making the play, like that's a tremendously encouraging rep.
Yeah, Neal's a guy that Greg said that if they were to bring him in, it'd probably be like a 3-year, $15 million deal. So he's going to be a really good value if that's the ballpark for him, because of how little experience he actually has under his belt. Like if you can get him for that 3 years, 15 million, like that is well worth bringing a safety like that in. And again, something about Sean McDermott and bringing in safeties that have experience. I would be. Do I want him to draft a safety that is athletic and can play early on in his career? Yes. But yeah, especially a guy like Chris Smith, absolutely. But the chances of them actually doing that and playing them from the jump, man, I don't know about that. They love experience, especially on that back end.
And what's also an important point too, and I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news for anyone, but next year we could be in a very similar situation with Micah Hyde as we are with Jordan Poyer. Like maybe Micah Hyde only has 1 year left in general, but 1 year left with the Bills. So say Micah Hyde is leaving next offseason. What do? It would be nice to bring in a veteran this year who can give you quality reps in 2023, but then also can be an experienced guy for 2024 and beyond. Maybe Damar Hamlin is a future guy. Maybe the future guy gets drafted this year at some point. But either way, it would be nice to have a calming, stabilizing presence on the back end, and looking towards free agency for the safety position could be really helpful. And as much as I love Chris Smith, I don't think this safety class is necessarily the strongest. So you really have to hit on a couple in the draft, and the odds of that happening are low. So that combined with both of the pieces we mentioned, I think would be really important for the Bills looking towards free agency to address the safety position again, if Jordan Poyer leaves. But Eric, this episode, the focus, again, it was looking for scheme fit guys, looking for the right skill sets and traits given the needs of this defense and what we've identified as positions that need to be addressed overall, but also from how we think this defense needs to be built out to start to get over the hump. And that was the mindset and how we addressed these guys and brought these players in for this episode tonight, in addition to having a cost-effective mindset. And I think the way we approach this is honestly going to be similar to how Brandon Beane and this Bills staff will approach this offseason, given the nature of the roster and where their money's tied up.
Yeah, their money's tied up. Obviously, again, we're talking about the pivot year. Now, Josh Allen's contract is a factor. It's a major factor from here on out. Yeah. So they have to be fiscally responsible, and they have to get guys that are, value type players, but fill roles in a dependable way. Like, hey, we need you to do this, and we need you to do this the entire year. So when we're talking that safety position, hey, yeah, there's going to be some changes back there. But the guys they bring in not only have to, come at a decent price, but they have to be dependable, because you're talking about Micah Hyde, you're talking about Damar Hamlin, and beyond that, Zane Anderson. Like, so little things like that are becoming bigger now. Like they're amplified, they're magnified now. So every little move that Beane makes has to be calculated that much more with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's contract playing a major factor now from here on out when it comes to roster construction. But